emails and calls and things to respond to. I just kind of underestimated. But YLC was amazing, very exhausting, but we did it. We did it. We had an amazing experience. So I will be getting back to work, guys. I would say later on this week. I actually really need to sleep. So I slept from, what time I go to bed? Like 3 o'clock, and I woke up maybe about an hour ago. So yeah, but I'm here. So let's get into it, guys. Hello, guys. How are you doing? We're about to go into a new week. For my ladies, tomorrow will be Makeup Monday. If you do not know what Makeup Monday is, it's basically where we do this like girl talk in the morning where I do my makeup and we bring basically women on to talk and share different topics. I'll be posting the topic this evening. However, tonight, let's get into tonight because I want to get into this and we can and get on out. Oh, guys, I'm so glad. Thank you. Hey, Prince and Prosper. So, hello, guys. I'm so glad. If you did come to YLC and you enjoyed my session, please let me know. Inbox me. Tell me what you liked about it. Again, the sessions will be up soon, so I'm excited. So, tonight we're talking about analysis paralysis, and I actually want to talk about this because of some of the questions I was getting after my session at YLC. Some people had asked me some questions regarding execution. And my session that I talked about how to turn your creativity, how to convert it into cash. However, a lot of times as creators, we have all these different ideas, different things you want to do, different businesses you want to launch. And so when you finally get that one thing that you want to do, then there's this analysis paralysis. And that's what I want to tackle and talk about, because for some of us, we're sitting on some really, really, really good ideas, but you are holding yourself back. And sometimes it is not just the beginners or the newbies that have analysis paralysis. I have it. There are moments where I've had successful moments. I've had successful businesses. And so even in all my success, you still will have analysis paralysis because that's just how fear, doubt works, where it creeps into your mind to make you think that this may not work out and it may not be a good idea. However, remember that business is about risk. I mean, if you got into business to be safe, then you really don't know, because remember, business is all about the consumer, and the consumer's desires are finicky. I mean, as humans ourselves, we change. And one of the things I talked about in my session is that you have to be adaptable. You have to be someone that can adjust with what's happening. And one of the quotes that I had said from my session was that don't be a blockbuster in a Netflix age. And so that's the reason why you really can't center your ideas, because of how fast people's desires and needs change. So, for instance, we went from using CDs to using, we went from using 8-tracks to CDs, and from CDs to MP3s. Y'all remember when the iPods first came out? Now we are moving, we're still using MP3s, but now we're going into streaming. And so the necessity of the consumer and what they want is changing. And the biggest trend that we're seeing is this idea of time. That's really it, of time. And so, and in many people's businesses, we're seeing this exchange of time. We're going from taxis to Lyft and Uber because we're seeing a difference in how people want to use their time. And so now we're seeing where people are now using apps to book ride share services and different things because of time. We're seeing where people don't feel like I'm switching out CDs, to listen to different tracks. And so now we're moving to streaming because I can listen to 3 CDs at one time. So in business and ministry and life period, we're seeing this exchange and this finicky habit as we are as humans. So this impacts how we run our businesses, how we run our ministries. Not to say that we cannot be who we are, but we have to understand how to deliver the content or the product or the service that fits that customer base. So what I wanted to talk about tonight was with the analysis paralysis, because now that I'm up, is that when you have that idea, when you have that desire, you have to move on it. But movement does not necessarily mean announcement. It means that you have to begin to conceive the idea, conceive the plan for it, to execute that plan. And so a lot of people, they get frozen because they're like, will it work? Will it not work? I met two beautiful women after my session who asked me, like, how do you get over like getting started, or, I've done the research, I've got this, but like now it's time to really execute. And many times the level of execution that you are needing usually involves for you to go into a realm that you probably don't know yet. It's something that you aren't familiar yet. But remember, if you're going to birth this concept, then you're going to need to focus on these three things. So you guys know how I do it. I have notes. I teach. I'm a teacher. So I know a lot of people who follow me, you're going to end up having like a notebook filled with things, and people send me these pictures all the time of notebooks that they have. Hello to the Bahamas. I see watching here on YouTube. We have Timmy watching. Hey, so hello YouTube. Hello Yolanda in the Bahamas. So let's talk about these three things that I want you to focus on for execution this week. This week you're going to execute. Okay. Hey girl, how are you? This week you're going to execute, and you're going to execute on the level, especially for those of you who have analysis paralysis. In other words, you have been staring at the situation for far too long. You've been staring at your plans for far too long. At this time, you're either going to execute or you need to sit your behind down because you just need to kind of gather your life together, okay? So you're either going to execute or you're going to remain on the couch, staring at your journal full of notes, okay? And the thing about it is that when you execute this time, this is the difference, you're going to execute with excellence, and you're going to also execute with efficiency, because it's time out. This is big. It's time out for us doing things that aren't profiting anything. Before we get into this analysis paralysis, I'll say this again. It's time out to do things that aren't profiting you anything. If it does not move me forward, okay, in any type of way, it's not worth my time. And so going into this week, I don't just want us to remove analysis paralysis, but as leaders, entrepreneurs, creators, whatever, I also want us to remove, okay, inefficient movements, okay? Some of you are on a stationary bike. And so what that means is that, yeah, your body is moving and you're exerting all of this sweat and energy, but you aren't moving anywhere. You aren't going nothing's moving. And I know that can be frustrating, okay? But on tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with some plans so that going into this week, you will not have analysis paralysis. You will not be doing anything that's profiting you anything, okay? And then on top of that, you're going to execute with excellence. Okay, so let's get started. Number one, you must be convicted about the goal. This week, I'm like, listen, you may want to maybe you're going to take some notes, and you maybe just need to get a sticky note, okay? And you can just write this down, okay? Now, for me, I'm sleeping, but for y'all can work. I just got done working 3 days, okay? 3 days. So I've done my work. I am sleeping tomorrow, okay? But here's the thing, though. For y'all know y'all don't work. So here's the first thing. You must be convicted about the goal, okay? So maybe on a sticky note, you're going to just write down 1, conviction. That's the first thing. You must be convicted about the goal. When you're not convicted about the goal, hey, Lornika, I got to get to you this week. I'm resting up. You must be convicted about the goal. When there is no conviction, listen, where there is no conviction, there will be complacency. I'm going to say that one again because I feel like you need to hear this, okay? Where there is no conviction. Oh, I'm not a lefty. I'm sorry. It's the camera's flipped. I'm sorry. I'm actually a righty. I'm sorry. Where there is no conviction, there will be complacency. Some of us are not hitting any goals or not hitting the main goal because of the fact that you are not convicted about what you need to do. So you are always finding reasons and open doors to leave the goal. or you put the goal off and you find reasons for why you don't need to hit the goal yet. And so this is a goal that is hanging beneath you, like right here, like low hanging fruit. I mean, it's like right here. And the problem is that you keep on having reasons for why it should not be done, why you need to do work on something else, because you aren't convicted about what it is that you need to accomplish. So you must be convicted about the goal. Where there is no conviction, there will always be complacency. This is actually a life lesson right there. Where you are not convicted, think about your salvation. Think about your relationship with God. Maybe you're not religious, okay? But I know for me as a Christian, where there's no conviction in an area, I will always settle or do something wrong, and I will be complacent. Complacent is settling. It's a form of settling. It's where you do not rise to the challenge. In other words, you settle, okay, and you allow things to just kind of be the way that they are, which means that your life will never level up and you will be living a life, okay, that is below. When you settle, you go down. Let's talk about this. When I settle, I'm living below where I'm supposed to be. I'm settling. I'm coming down, back down. So whenever I make my goals optional or conditional, or I'm complacent, I am now going back down where I left. Now I need to go up because I'm supposed to be leveling up. Supposed to be going to the next level. And so the next level requires a conviction that most people do not have, because most people want to be complacent. And so this is an inner decision you have to make for yourself of this week. Do I want this week to be like the rest of the weeks that my life has had? Or do I want to have a productive week that I've never had before? Now, it's not to mean that you will not have any issues. Okay? It does not mean that everything's going to go perfect. Okay? It does not mean that you will not get some phone calls, different things, that may throw you off. That does not deter the week being successful, because the mark of success is progress. The mark of success is progress. And some of you are so condemning toward yourselves that because you have not made 100 steps, you aren't thanking God that you made 10. And you have to learn that life is not about running a race compared to somebody else. It's about making sure that you get your behind to the finish line. Okay, so this is not the week to say, oh, well, I didn't do this like somebody else and I haven't accomplished this much. And you heard how much money someone else made this week, and you're looking at your bank account. Listen, you just need to be making sure that you're moving forward. Let's hit a question that someone has asked. How do I get to conviction? I'm going to answer this as I answered the question that one of the two ladies asked, and they asked, how do I get there? Like, how do I actually do this? And they didn't really like the answer that I gave them. Okay, because the answer I told them, I said, is that it's a personal choice. Conviction is nothing but a choice. We want to see, a lot of times we want to feel convicted. We want to feel, this is the reason why many people are not successful, because they're waiting to feel like accomplishing the goal. You're waiting to feel happy in order to get the job done. You want to feel like, yes, this is my week in order to get stuff done. Whereas many people who are the most successful did not wait to feel like getting the work done, because the work is not dependent upon your feelings. Okay? Because there are going to be many times where you will not feel like doing anything. You're not going to feel like going on your computer at such and such time and doing something. And remember, if you are not convicted, in other words, you have not made the choice, you will always find something more exciting to do than the thing that you really need to do. How many times, I know many of you can attest to this, you had a goal and you had to accomplish it. And what you did was you wasted about a good hour or 2 hours really excited about something else. Maybe you were supposed to complete the paper or write up that contract or reach out to somebody and send some emails. But instead you say, sometimes you'll get so excited as a squirrel especially creatives, and we will think of something amazing, brand new to do in that 1 or 2 hours. Oh, you know what? I'm going to work on this blog post, when really you should have been working on that. But instead, and what you said to yourself was, well, I mean, this was an amazing idea. Of course I'm going to work on it. Yeah, but you should have been working on that thing you were supposed to be working on. But because there was no feeling, you didn't do it because you were waiting to feel convicted. If I wait until I feel, if you wait until you feel it, you aren't a visionary. This is big. This is huge. As a leader, you have to learn to get out of your feelings and into your vision. Okay, this is the mindset we got to have this week. This is not the time for me to get into my feelings. I've got to get into my vision. Because vision is not about feeling, it's about seeing. And conviction is based on a seeing, not a feeling. I must see that this is a good thing to do. Not I must feel. No, I must see. Because vision is what guides a person from point A to point B. So you may ask me, how do I get from I don't feel like doing it to doing it? Well, I must see the end goal. If I don't see the end goal and I'm just feeling, I will never get to my end destination. So when I'm going into this week, I must set out my tasks. And when I set out my tasks for the week, I must see, this is actually a really good idea. If you're somebody who's really you're like the worst of procrastination, here is an idea for you. When you write down your goals for the week, write down why you need to do them. Because for some of us, we take our tasks too lightly. Like me completing these emails, why do I need to complete these emails? You maybe need to put it right next to it because I need this and I need to get here. Some of us are just seeing tasks as just tasks. That's another reason why you're so complacent. You don't see them as a connection point to your end goal. You just see them as something to do. And so you treat it as optional. And then you end up having optional results. But when you're someone who is a visionary, somebody who sees the end before it's really manifested, okay, then you know that every single step is leading me. Listen to me. Every single step is leading me in the right direction. Every single step that you take this week is going to lead you into the right. It's going to lead you right to where you need to be. But you've got to know where you're going. This is the reason why I cannot have number two. Is number two. You must analyze your paralysis. That's why I'm calling this analysis paralysis. So number one was, I must be convicted about the goal. And one of the things that we said about it is that where there is no conviction, there will be complacency, which is the reason why many people don't accomplish their goals. Then we said, someone asked, well, Genesis, how do I get to conviction? We answered by saying is that conviction is nothing but a choice. It's not that deep. The thing about it, again, is that we're waiting on a feeling, which we just talked about. We're waiting to feel something, okay? Conviction is, it's funny, conviction is deep, but to get there is not that deep. Because we're for some of us, we're fighting so hard not to do something. We're fighting so hard to not do that we're trying to have all these requirements to do, right? So like, for instance, if I don't want to, let's just talk about being maybe, let's say, not, doing the right thing, for instance, with conviction. So let's say I'm presenting with a situation and it's going to either be to do the right thing or the wrong thing. Okay. And so my conviction is telling me that I need to do the right thing. Okay. However, that conviction comes from because on the inside of me, I've made the choice to do the right thing. So the thing about it is that conviction comes before the choice. This is important. Conviction is a choice, but it comes before making the big choice. Does that make sense? No, in other words, I must make the choice in my heart that I am a good person before I make a good choice. Does that make sense? So a lot of times we have not made the decision inwardly before we made it outwardly. So like, for instance, right, you have a whole bunch of tasks this week to get a job or achieved in your business or in your ministry or in your life or in your career. And because you never made any inward choices, it's hard for you to make any outward choices. And so this is why your projects drag on and you never get anything accomplished. This is why maybe for some of you, you need to change some of your circles, but you never change the people you're around, because I've never made the choice inwardly. And so for every single level, there are new convictions with new choices. Does that make sense? Okay. So number one is you must be convicted about the goal. There are some goals, I'm telling you, inside of all of us that we know we can accomplish. But the biggest thing is that we aren't convicted about them. And they aren't real to us yet. They're just an idea, something like sitting on the shelf that we can bring down when we want to. When conviction is where I have no other choice. It is the main choice, the only choice. That is real conviction. That there's no other option except the door that I'm about to go through. And I'm so convicted that that is the choice and you cannot shake me from it. So the thing here's the question for you. With your goals this week, could someone give you an out for you to take? Or are these choices convictions for you? Are these tasks? Or could someone talk you out of these goals that you're setting for yourself this week? How real are these goals for you? Because if they're really real, then you will have convictions and you will move differently about them. Number two is you must analyze your paralysis. You're frozen. You've gotten frozen. You've gotten stuck. For some of us, we've gotten stuck in achieving. Okay, so we have not finished the project. We have not gone after this. We have not called this person. We have not gone to these different rooms to put ourselves in different environments to get to that next level. There is a paralysis. Now, paralysis usually comes from a shock of some kind of reaction. And you have to figure out where because sometimes you got to retrace your steps to figure out what made you freeze, what made you choke. What made you stop? And if you don't analyze your paralysis, you will always remain stuck. Because as a leader, you have to learn what gets you stuck so that you don't get stuck again. I have a list of things that I am continuously updating on my Gigi file. This is what messes me up. This is what trips me up. This is when I take on too many projects, I don't accomplish. So what's not going to trip me up is let's reduce the number of projects I take on. What messes me up is when I'm trying to do 15 things at one time. So to remove that paralysis, I'm going to divvy out all these things into multiple days, and I'm not going to pressure myself to accomplish 50 tasks in one day, right? You've got to learn what has got you stuck. Because many things that have gotten you stuck are not that serious. They're just literally tweaks that you can make to get yourself unstuck, right? And some of these things this is really important for some of you, you've gotten stuck because you are stuck to people. Let me explain this for some of you. Some of you are not accomplishing anything because you're helping everyone else accomplish. And you never give yourself time to accomplish anything. So by the time you get home and you do whatever it is that you need to do, you barely have any time for yourself. And that is nobody's fault but yours. Now, I know you may say, well, Gigi, you don't know my schedule. I don't care. If you don't make time for your own dreams, you will never live the life that God has made you to live. And until you take that personal conviction, you got to be convicted. If you're not convicted, you'll never, ever live your own life. But what are you convicted about? You're convicted of everyone else's vision. You believe in everyone else's dreams. You believe that everyone else can have their own life and be powerful and successful. But you leave yourself on the side like a pot to the side of the stove, heating it up whenever you have the time, which is an issue. Which means that you aren't convicted about your own dreams and your own goals. But see, when you do get convicted and you do begin walking in whatever it is that you desire, you have to learn about what freezes you. It's like the freeze game. And when you would get tagged, you had to freeze. What has been touching you that has made you freeze? And then what have you allowed to touch you? Some things are where we put ourselves in those own positions, and you have to learn, I got to retrace my steps. How did I get here? What did I allow to freeze me? Okay. Have I not rested enough? And that's why I'm always burnt out. Oh man, for me, that's a personal one. I've been frozen. So I've been stuck so many times because my mind could barely think. It was fried. And then I would try to make excuses. Many times we try to make excuses for why we are frozen. We try to defend why we're stuck. This is not the time for you to defend why you have not accomplished. This is the time for you to figure out what got you stuck so you can get yourself unstuck. And sometimes that's a journey all on its own. And that really, in my opinion, is a lifetime journey, because there will be multiple things that you'll face across life. But if you can start to get kind of like a manual for yourself, everyone needs a life manual. And this is kind of like a troubleshooting manual that, for instance, when you look in your car, most cars, well, all cars come with manuals and these guides that if this happens, this is how you do it. And if you want to turn on this is what happens. You need a life manual that when I get stuck, I need to okay, Genesis, did you not rest? Genesis, did you not do this? And I just go through the list and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that's why. And I don't condemn myself, because I believe that the word says, listen, is that I know that I'm never stuck. I know that I'm never stuck, and I know there's always something that's for me, right? And so let's talk about, so Indiana, before we get to the third one. Indiana says inability to see progress, nothing is working. And that's a frustrated point, which is very real. It's very real, very real. And I think that when you are frustrated, you have to take a step back. Listen to me, you cannot work frustrated. You cannot work frustrated. And so if you are frustrated about where you are, you must take a step back. You got to take a step back. You literally have to take a step back from everything and look at everything. Not in a viewpoint of frustration, but a viewpoint of revitalization. Okay? Because that's where usually the enemy likes to cut your legs off, when you're frustrated. When you do that, you've also got to analyze, not to condemn yourself, but to analyze. Have I been convicted enough, okay, to reach? And this is big. Many times, this is really big, the environment and your ecosystem is key to growth. Many times we are stuck, not just of our own selves, but of the environments in which we've placed ourselves in. Certain environments can only give you so many things. And that's the reason why you must change your environments, okay? And I'm not going to say like everything, but many times as we operate in our giftings and our talents, we're frustrated sometimes because we are supposed to be here, but we're here. In other words, we have not introduced ourselves to new circles, new arenas, new levels of thought. And so we will find ourselves frustrated. I talked to someone about this at the conference when they actually had to say, Jen, I'm frustrated. I've been doing everything and nothing is working. And I said, where have you been at? What I meant by them was, where have you placed yourself in to be seen? Because some of us have placed ourselves in environments that can't even handle your gifts, and they cannot afford your gifts. And some of the conversations we need to be in are not the ones that people can see, but in rooms where the doors are locked. And they're in places where there is no Facebook for selfie. There is no camera to, this is the thing. We have to realize in our frustration that, remember, frustration will block your ability to see. That's the reason why you have to remove yourself and kind of declog out so that you can then begin to see other routes of going. But sometimes, again, your environment has something to do with it. You have to change where you are so that you can see new things. Okay. Sometimes you have to change where you are to see new things, to have different types of conversation. And sometimes there's a fear that the enemy has paralyzed you with to not go into certain rooms, to not make certain calls, and to not be convicted to the level that when you get a no, that you don't see. This is the thing. For some of us, When we get the first no, we run. Yet we hear about these huge, y'all, everyone's known about the stories where, somebody called the bank 12 times, and on the 13th time, they got the call. Why? Because they were convicted. When you're convicted, you chase at the level that you know you belong. This is big, because where you are going, this is the thing I'm telling you. Some of us, the exhaustion has decreased our stamina to be convicted and to fight for what it is that we really want. But remember, when you're fighting, you've got to be in the right environment. Because if you're not in the right environment, you will grow frustrated because of the fact that that environment cannot give back to you. Okay. But for some of us, again, I'm trying to hit all different viewpoints so that this maybe can help different people. You've got to realize that for some of you, your success is not going to come from visibility. Your success is going to come from private wins. My income, the majority, the biggest numbers have never came from visibility, in the sense of everyone knowing me. It came from the right people knowing me. It didn't always come also from where I lived. It came from being in rooms in cities where I did not live. Because some people are looking for an external perspective. They're looking for somebody who doesn't know them from a can of paint. They're looking for a completely unbiased person. And some of your money is in different states. Some of your exposure and not even exposure, but some of your this access to new experiences are in different places. But our fear, the paralysis, keeps you stuck from movement. Because that's the thing. When you're stuck, you cannot move. But you've got to move, because what you need is wrapped up in your movement. It's wrapped up in you moving around, meeting new circles and new people. But see, this is where it comes back from. Now you're coming up with excuses for why you cannot go, why you cannot fly, why you cannot do this, why you cannot hop on a train or a Greyhound. I'm just excuses everywhere of why, even what I'm saying. See, this is how I know sometimes the enemy works, is that I am saying something right now. And for some of you right now, you are even thinking right now of reasons for why you can't even do what I just said, which means that you are right now literally keeping yourself stuck. Come up with excuses. Well, I tried that. No, I'm telling you, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I've met people give me all sorts of excuses, which is I put myself in new environments and it still hasn't worked. It's almost strange. It would be weird for you to put yourself in new environments and nothing come from it. That does not speak of the environment. That would speak of you. Because sometimes when you enter into that new environment, you aren't speaking to anybody. You aren't freely opening up yourself. You aren't gleaning, So just because you put yourself in a new environment, nothing will happen unless you're open to that new environment. Some of us are going to where we need to go, but because we still are in fear, we don't open ourselves up to receive what that new environment wants to deposit into us. It's funny, if Joseph was still stuck in the bitterness of his brothers, when he got to Potiphar's house, he would have been stuck on the fact that his brothers were keeping him in bondage and were trying to sell him off. But see, instead, what he said was, no, here's a new environment for me that I've never been in. I'm going to be somebody who's going to take full advantage of the environment. And this is big because see, for some of us, what's keeping us stuck is also emotional issues that we have not let go of. And even though we really need to be free from them, we have not become free. And it's messing up our money, our opportunities, our flowing. It's messing up our giftings, our abilities. And so it's not just sometimes goals that are keeping you back. Sometimes it's inner issues that you have not let go of, or it's frustration, or it's just, this bitterness that has arisen. And you can't even see that the environment that you're in is about to take you to the next level, but you're still stuck. on what happened in the past, on how things, listen, I'm trying to tell you, the enemy comes in all forms and fashion to keep you stuck. I've been there. I cannot tell you the number of stressful situations I've been in where suicidal thoughts and some dangerous thoughts came because I was in such a stressful position. I was trying to figure out, how do I get out of this situation? I was so frustrated. I'm talking about frustrated. This is why you got to have the Lord. And so what I did was I took a step back from the situation. And I said to myself, this is what I would say to myself is, listen, it's time to clear out the clouds. It's time to clear out any issues, because see, I can't even see possibilities if I keep on thinking about what happened and the issues. I already know what happened. I already know the issues. I already know what I'm facing. I don't need to focus on that anymore. I need to clear I need to declutter. I need to unclog all of the inner issues, and I need to make sure that I am ready for my next level. Okay? Because it's here. It's all, see, the Bible says that faith is now. And see, as you go into this week, if you don't see this as a now week, every week I see as a now week. And yes, I have issues, and yes, I have things that I face, but every week is a now. The switch is always on. And it's not saying that I this is important. It's not to say that I go so hard that I don't rest. I'm learning on how the treasury of resting. What I'm saying is that but every week is a winning week. Even in defeat, I'm still winning. It's big. Number one, let's go through our notes. Number one, you must be convicted about the goal. We're almost done. Number two, you must analyze your paralysis. Number three, you must walk around the wall because you've been staring at it for so long. This is big, for too long, excuse me. This last one is what I'm going to end with, because this is what we're going to end with. Listen. When you face your walls, a lot of us have spent time trying to climb over it. And one of the things I've always said to myself is that I'm not climbing over nothing. I'm walking around it. And I'm going to explain what this is, because a lot of times we try to muster up the strength to get over something that has no victory over us. It's really big. Because you got to really, how do you see your problems and situations? Like when I face let's say I face a stumbling block, a challenge, something that I feel like I cannot get over, somebody can't get over, we always talk about, girl, you got to get over that, I'm not getting over anything. I'm just going to walk around it. I don't have the time to get over. I don't have the time to climb the wall. I don't have the time. No, I'm not climbing mountains. I'm walking around. Like, this is the thing. I'm so over this feeling a lot of times where we feel like we have to do all this stuff to get over something that has no victory over us. It has no victory over us. No victory. No victory. No victory. And we feel like we have to muster up the strength to prove something to our mountains, to prove something to our walls. First of all, I am not going to spend my energy trying to prove to my situation anything at any point in time. I am not going to, this is really big. Because see, this is what people ask all the time. Genesis, how do I get over this situation? Genesis, I'm facing a wall right now, Gigi, and it's just so much. How do I get over the wall? You don't get over it. You walk around it, because there are some things you cannot get over. Because to be honest, let's just tell the truth. Let's just tell the truth. This look at life. Sometimes life hands you things that you just got to walk away from. You can't, no, I just walk away from. And that is a way of getting over it. I don't have to climb it over. I'm just going to walk. I'm just going. Bye. Stop wasting time talking to your walls. The Bible says, first of all, any talking that should be done should be to remove it, not to have a conversation with it. The Bible says that you are to say to these mountains, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea. That's it. You don't wait for the wall to talk back to you. You don't wait for there to be some kind of going back and forth conversation. The only thing I need to be worrying about is removing, not climbing. The Bible never says to climb over the mountain. It did not say to struggle with the mountain. The Bible says to speak to the mountain and say, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea. In other words, get out of my face. Now, you don't say that to people, okay? But what I'm saying is that when you're going into this week and we're looking at the fact that I'm facing some challenges in this week, I'm not going to waste my time addressing these things for so long. Because for some of you, you have been facing the same wall for like 5 months, 10 months, 2 years, and you have not accomplished your goals because of these things that you're facing. And so what you've done is you've given up and you have stopped fighting for what you know belongs to you, and you've lost your conviction in the situation. And so you stop making good choices. You stop choosing you. You've stopped going after what belongs to you. You've lost your conviction. You've lost your energy. You've lost your joy in order to accomplish your goals. So the books have not been, you never know, the brand is not excelling. The ministry is subpar because you stop putting your joy and your time into it, or you're putting all your time, but you're not changing your circles. So you're not changing the faith that comes into your ears. And so because of these different things, whether you're in ministry or business or life, career, whatever it may be, because of the fact that you keep on trying to wrestle with when really you should be just walking around, casting that thing into the sea and keeping it moving. But no, this is the thing for some of us, we want to have a struggle story. For some of y'all, you are addicted to struggle. You are addicted to struggle. And it is an addiction that will take you out. You are addicted to fighting because you've been fighting your entire life. You are addicted to being in the ring 24 hours. And so when you don't fight, you don't feel like life is not moving because you are so used to fighting. And I'm trying to tell you something. God is not the God where you fight your entire life, because the Bible says that we are to give him. He is the one who's supposed to fight our battles. And so you have to learn how to live a life of abundance and not of fighting all the time. Stop being addicted to struggle. That may have been your story, but that is not going to be your current chapter. Listen, that may have been what happened back then, but listen, that's not what's happening right now. And you may say, well, just I'm still struggling. Listen. You control your mindset. And remember, whatever level your mindset is on, that's what you will face. That's what you're going to have. So if I'm always focused on things not going right, things will always not go right. If I'm focused on how things will get better, then things will get better. Because here's the thing. The way that you walk is dependent upon how you see. I am trying, listen, let me break it down real quick so you can get this. If I come into the week with unbelief, then all of my steps are wrapped up in unbelief. I want you to understand, some of us are not accomplishing because every step that we walk in is laced with fear. So you never go really as hard as you should go, because really your things are really not wrapped up in faith. It's really fear. It's fear trying to act like faith. And so you don't take steps, you tippy-toe. You don't jump, you just kind of hop. And then what you say is that you did it. You didn't do anything. Here's this, I'm telling you, this is so real. We have to either be convicted or you're going to be complacent. There's no in between. Either you're going to believe or you just might as well, listen, just stay right where you listen. You just stay right where you are. Either this is real to you or this is just, But your steps are always contingent upon your perspective. I talk about this in my book, which comes out August the 10th. You can pre-order on my website, genesisdorsey.com, real quick plug. But I talk about this in my book of the power of perspective. My life changed when I began to understand that my mindset had to change. I used to be a person, But my parents almost didn't even trust sometimes. I mean, I would say when I was like around my late teenage years. And I was doing things that were just wrong. And it was because I had this incorrect perspective, especially about provision. And when my mindset changed about provision and I understood that I had the ability to create and conceive of my own creativity, I began to have more confidence. Because here's the thing, where there is conviction, there will always be confidence. Some of you don't have confidence because you're not convicted. You don't believe. You don't believe. And you keep on trying to find reasons to not believe. And you try to read all these books on how to get your belief when all it takes is just to believe. I'm telling you, this is how we get wrapped. This goes back to this analysis paralysis thing, is that you keep on trying to find the 21 reasons. I need the 21 ways to believe. I need to find 10 keys to believe. Just believe. Stop trying to overcomplicate your success. This is why we must understand that I have to start walking around. Stop trying to give place to things that don't have any place in your life. You must learn how to cast things into the sea and how to keep it moving. If it arises again, I cast into the sea. I don't have time to get hung up on something I'm not supposed to be hung up on. I'm supposed to be hung up on success, not hung up on the issue. Dove Costum M asks, when things don't happen that I believe in, try to manifest, try to speak into existence, is it because my mindset was not right? That's a very good question. Wow, when things don't happen that I believe in, try to manifest, try to speak into existence, is it because my mindset was not right? You're missing one key thing. Now, I'm hoping, now, I'm going to answer this in a spiritual sense. That's the only way I can answer this, is that you're missing the word steps. When I believe in something, and see, manifestation has to require steps. And so if it's not coming into existence, it's because there are no steps. And everything that God, he wants to do in our lives, he will speak steps. He will literally direct us in steps. So this is something where this is not a question of your mindset. It's not a question of manifestation. This is a question of steps. Where are the steps? Usually this is something that God wants you to do and it's in your heart to do, he will give you steps. I mean, literally, he will give you steps. Okay. Yeah. So you love the Lord. Okay, good. He will give you steps. There's never been a desire. If there's a desire that God's giving you, he will always give you steps. So that's all you're missing. So you just need to pray for steps. The Bible says that the steps of righteous man are ordered by the Lord. And so there's something that you need to accomplish. He will give you the steps. He will not give you all the steps at the same time, but he will give them in steps. Okay. So y'all, we're done. Let's go through our notes. We're going to wrap up. Hopefully you guys are going to have an awesome week. I have given you content, good teaching, as I always love to do. I love to teach. So Dove Cobbs M asked, did I take all the steps necessary to get it done right? I get that because I know I didn't do it all that I could have done. Well, this is the other thing too. That's the other thing too. You've got to realize that manifesting God's promises are not all on you. You've got to allow God to be God. Sometimes we try to force things to come into fruition and it rips the grace off of the manifestation, because remember, God is a God of miracles and he's a God of him showing himself strong. It's not about you showing yourself strong. This is about him showing himself strong. And so this is not about, sometimes we're so anxious to have things happen that we try to break down. This is also analysis paralysis. Did I do everything right? I thought I did everything right. No. That's not how this works. Simply pray and spend time with the Father and don't put a time clock on it. You only become anxious when you put a time clock on it. Okay, you're putting it. See, sometimes we're putting a time clock, we're putting constraints on God. To manifest God's desires for our lives, it's supposed to be a flowing thing. God is the God of flow. And for some of you, that's another reason why you've been, and not to use the example, just, this is a great thing to talk about as we end. I'm just going to add this on, is that some of us are paralyzed because we're trying to force something to happen when we're not trying to flow. You can't force it. You got to flow it. And when it comes to walking in God's best for your life, you will never get God's best trying to force the blessing. When God blessed Abraham, Abraham was not trying to force God's hand. He allowed God's hand to be on his life to be used as a vessel. So let's kind of rebuild up this thing for Dove real quick, because I believe that even for her, even for everybody, I think it's going to be used as a great lesson, because I've been there so many times. I've been in your same situation where I'm like, God, did I do this right? I thought I did this right. How come things aren't working? Da, da, da. And it was because I did not spend time keeping my butt still, shutting up sometimes, and to say, okay, this is not all on me. Because if I'm in partnership with God, there is an exchange. There's a rhythm. I'm telling you, and I teach on the rhythm so many times. It's so powerful. I love it. I love to teach on the rhythm of God. The rhythm of God has a flow. It's like a river. It's like being on the beach and you hear the waves come in and go out and you hear the crash. It's so calming. But that's how the flow of God is. And what happens is we have to flow with him. Dove, but you missed it. This is it. This is it though, Dove. 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 So Dove is what Dove says I did because I needed to have it done by a certain time. I wanted to be in a program, so there was a deadline for entrance. So yes, there was a time frame. But see, Dove, you're missing something that's really big. You're still stuck on what you want and what you need. You've got to realize that if there's a desire, God will meet that desire, but many times it will not match the game plan. And I know that maybe you're praying for him to meet that game plan, but that's the reason why sometimes, listen, I cannot tell you, I'm going to use my own self as an example. I had an event. Okay. Had an event. Early January that I was supposed to do. And God gave me the concept, right? I know it was God that gave me the concept. The problem was that I forced it. And things broke out of my control. I mean, things happened that was completely out of my control. And I felt crushed. The weekend where decisions were supposed to be made, I was really suffocated in defeat. I mean, to the point where I was sitting in the car, and a friend will tell you that I was at the point where I was literally considering driving my car into ongoing traffic in early this January. It was so bad, because as a person who has been successful so many times, to face failure for me at that level publicly, and even though it wasn't like it was a ton of people, but it clearly crushed me. Like, it crushed me. And I literally, I cannot tell you, I was so distraught, because for me, I'm like, God, like, come on now. There was a deadline. There was a time I needed things to happen. Like, okay, like, God, how come you didn't come through? So I'm questioning all my steps. I mean, I was questioning everything. I was questioning, did I do everything right? What did I do wrong? It's on me, all this stuff, right? But God, I was like, God, you knew this was a desire. You knew this is like, why? Okay. Took some time off. Took some, I'm doing another event. Just, this is not, it's not it right now. And I said to myself about towards my birthday around April. So January is when I was crushed. April was when I was just like, I've got to let, even as someone who is, sometimes, especially if you're successful, you're so used to being in control that sometimes you try to control the one who created you. And I'm like, I gotta let you be God, because this is not it. And I know that in order to have my real desire, I've got to let you lead. Even when the way you lead is not of my own choosing. This is big. We talked about this with matter of fact, Nicole. If you guys have watched one of our Makeup Mondays, there's a one of my dear. I'm telling you, this girl's so amazing. Nicole McNeil. We talked about this. This is so powerful. What happens when there's a desire in your heart, but God takes you a route that was not in your plans? And what Nicole said is so powerful. The life that we live is not ours. I'm telling you, this will make you all sometimes cry when you realize that the desire is his and the desire is mine. But the steps are not. Y'all, I'm trying to see, sometimes you will feel so frustrated with God because you had a plan that was going to work. And you knew that if I just got here and I got here, look, God, I'm going to get this done. And you then get a no. And you're like, but if I got the yes, God, I would have achieved what I know you wanted me to do. But the steps, the Bible says that the steps are ordered by the Lord. I want you to get this. We have quoted that scripture, but we have forgotten that the steps are not created by us. It's not like we create our steps and ask God to anoint them. This is what happens what do you do when you take a step left, but then God says, no, you're going right. But you already know what you put all your energy into it. You put all your time into it. You put all your laboring into it. And then God says no. In January, I was broken. On top of that, deaths were happening around me. It was just like a really bad time in life, period. It wasn't my worst, but it was bad. It was very bad. Mentally and emotionally. And I got again to April and I said, I am done trying to produce out of my own will. This is for the birds. This is just too exhausting. I'm not doing anything like this ever again. Then I get to the summertime and I was just chilling. I was still operating. You still have to be operating though in your gift. See, you can't allow the frustration to kill your joy, to kill your excitement to produce. Because when it is time, you don't have time to catch up. This is really big. So I may be frustrated, but I can't walk out the door. This is not the time for me to throw in the towel. And so for me, I did have to take a little bit of time away to kind of get my life together, but it was not to quit. It was to get my energy back, to not quitting my giftings, not quitting my assignment. And so I kept on teaching, kept on doing my daily stuff, kept on, reaching out, putting myself in different circles, and then God began to speak. Dove, we're going to take a quick. Dove says, but what about delighting him for the desires of our heart? Even if we delight, it doesn't matter because he can still say no. If this doesn't mean anything is wrong with me, this means I am not doing this program because I'm still doing my assignment. No. Okay. So here's the thing. The thing about it is that, yes, that's right. So just because you didn't get into the program does not mean that you cancel your assignment. Right? So just because I did not do that event does not mean that I should just never do any events. No, because I ended up doing the Good Fight, which was crazy, amazing. So it was the fact that, I'm going to get to that. It's the fact that just because one step was not your step does not mean that there are not steps. Remember, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. So just because my step did not work out does not mean that God has another step for me to step in. Does that make sense? So a lot of times the enemy, though, will use the failures of your steps to cancel out God's steps. That's what I'm trying to say. So he will use what you try to force, and not to say that it's your issue, not to say that it's your fault, but it's the sense of sometimes we do stuff that it just doesn't work out. And it does not mean that necessarily we forced it either. It just means that it didn't work out. And sometimes God has a better step. That's all I'm trying to say. Sometimes God has a better step. And we have to be willing to let go of the step that we took to say, okay, let me take the step that God has. Exactly like Lori says, take it step by step. Take it step by step. Okay. As I was closing, if you're on Instagram, I may have to do a second live because it's coming right out of time. As I was saying, when I got to the summer, I wasn't really, I was kind of just like, kind of gliding through. And the Lord put into my heart about the good fight of faith. I was reading the word one night and it was on the good fight of faith. And it was one of those things where something, it was like a fire. It's like something lit up in me. And this was so big because it was the same feeling that I had in January, but it was confirmation that this was the time. I taught this in the workshop, in the class I taught at YLC. There's a difference between time. I don't think I even got deeper into it actually at YLC. But there's a difference between time and timing. Sometimes it's a good thing at the wrong time. So yes, God, yes, it's something for you to do, but just not yet. And that can be very hard because we know that faith is now my next level. But sometimes it's not that it's you. It's just that what God's trying to do in the end, it requires more behind the scenes work. Maybe not necessarily for you, but see, God hasn't, oh my God. Some of us sometimes we don't realize that there's more in this world besides ourselves. And that when God tries to fulfill your purpose, when he's working in your life, it's not just about you. There are other moving pieces such as people and environment, situations that have to come together in order for you to have the most fulfilled time or experience or outcome. So sometimes we're trying to do something in a moment when God's like, oh, it's not time yet. And you're like, God, yes, it is. He's like, no, it's not time, because he knows all the missing and moving pieces that have to come together. So maybe, listen, the program may have been the good idea, but you don't know what God has that will point you to a greater solution. Maybe it's not the time yet. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on the timing. We're going to work on cultivating. And I'm not going to get disappointed because at least I show God that when he is ready to put me on, I'm willing. Sometimes it's also a moment, so this is why sometimes we try to think of all these reasons for why it doesn't work. But for me, I try to think of all the reasons why God has greater for me, so instead of me, as I was in January, like almost out, I had to change my mindset to thinking of, well, there has to be a reason for why it did not work. And so I'm going to thank God for the fact that I was not put on at the wrong time. Sometimes we have to be willing to be grateful for the things that did not happen instead of things that, oh my gosh, no. I'm thankful sometimes for the fact that it did not happen because I would not have been ready. And when I think about what God did on July the 21st for the good fight, I'm so glad that what happened in January did not happen. Even though I was broken, distraught, I was sad. When I look at what God did in July, when we hosted and the whole team, Lori, Nicole, LaShawn, Stephanie, Noni, Fantasy, Denise, Sister Anita, Kadeen, Michelle, Tiffany. And I'm sure missing some people. So if I miss your name, listen, I'm so sorry. When I look at everybody, listen, I said there were moving pieces that were in place because the help I got in July was not the help that I had in January. I'm trying to say the resources that I had in July was not the resources that I had in January. The mindset that I had in July was not the mindset that I had in January. What I needed to produce, what God really wanted me to produce, I had it all in July. When if I would have done it in January, I would have not been able to produce what God wanted me to produce, because in January, I was just focused on doing an event. But yet in July, God took it up to an experience. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, you have to take this thing out of you. I feel the Holy Spirit. You have to take this thing out of you. I'm telling you what the Holy Spirit, he is working and living on the inside of you. And sometimes there is a resistance of your flesh and your spirit, because see, sometimes we want to outwardly income when God's trying to do also an inward work in you. And so see, in January, I was sad. I was distraught. I would not have been able to do anything in that season with the deaths that were happening, all that stuff. I was not physically, mentally ready to do anything. Okay. But in July, I got my joy back. I had peace back. There were things that God could say, okay, now I'm ready to deposit into her. She is ready to produce what it is that I have for her. And I'm also going to send her the help that she needs. And so what happened was the outcome that happened in July was 10 times better than anything that could have happened in January. And I'm telling you, I give God all of the praise. I mean, the team, we experienced an overflow that was not just externally, but inwardly. Women were being free. Women were praying. They were seeking God's face. And see, I know I'm talking about this from a ministry standpoint, but I've experienced this in a business standpoint. When things broke down, things were not working for me. And then I got to moments in my career where God was like, this is the now time. And then the thing about it was, because I never stopped with my gifts and my assignments, when the door did finally open, I was not trying to catch up. I was already ready, because I said to myself, you know what? It may not have worked back then, but see, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep myself working and grinding and at the plow, so that when the door does come, listen, it was like, for instance, with the prophet Elijah and Elisha. And he was working the plow. And what happened was, listen, when it was time for him to leave, he let go of the plow and he went after the man of God. Because listen, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing. He wasn't in his house chilling. He was working. He was working. He was working. But when it came time for him to exit out the doors, he was ready to leave that thing. And that's the thing. You have to continue to work your way. But when God is ready for him to move, when all the pieces come together, because oh my God, the Lord does not want anything broken. And sometimes we're trying to produce broken, and we want everything to be. God's like, no, there are some things that are broken. There are some things that maybe we're broken. Maybe there's some things in our plan that are broken, and God needs to send just a little bit more resources. He needs to send just a little bit more people, because what he wants to do, this is about him doing what he wants to do to get the power and the effect that he wants. This is not about us. It's about him. It's about the outcome that he wants. Not that we want. Because see, remember, our ways are so much smaller than his ways. And our thoughts are so much smaller than his thoughts. And I'm telling you, I can't even tell you. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Let me tell you something real quick. We're done. Michelle, who she is like my brain. She's my helper. She's my assistant, but she's more that she's my helper. And she was telling me that our photographer, so let me kind of track back. So back in January, we're going to hire this photographer, and we're just kind of off the cuff, just to hire somebody, nothing intentional. And then it's funny, because when we decided to hire a photographer for the good fight, it was like the last thing on our list. Like we completely forgot about having a photographer. And so we were on Craigslist looking for photographers real fast, because we need someone like overnight. So we couldn't really do anything that required like a long process. And so Michelle found a girl all the way in Virginia. And I was like, first of all, I was like, in Virginia, but she reached out to her and she said, I can make it. I can come. So this photographer drove all the way from Virginia to Delaware for our event. This woman had not been in, let me make sure I'm saying this right. She had not been in church for 4 years. I want you to hear me. I do not want to cry, but I'm trying to tell you, whew, this photographer's woman had not been to church in 4 years. We did not know from a campaign. Michelle had found her on Craigslist, okay? Photographer all the way from Virginia, okay? Because see, some of us are so caught up on looking successful, being able to say that we've accomplished something when the Holy Spirit is not about you having tallies on a list of what you've done. He is about you doing his will because he has a great work that doesn't just involve you, but it involves other people. And that's the reason why he's not about rushing this thing. He is about God moving at the opportune time for the best experience possible. So Michelle told me that this photographer had not been to church in 4 years. I remember that night on July 21st when she was in the building, and we ended the night in prayer where women were linking arms with other women, not just on our location, but Lori Mitchell, she had the Harrisburg location, and women were praying with one another. And my aunt, I believe it was my aunt who didn't even know her, began to pray for this woman. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit. And Michelle told me that the photographer, hold on, I want to see if I can pull up this text message. But Michelle, listen, I'm going to see if I can pull up this text message that you sent me. This photographer never been in church for 4 years. When she first of all, she was in the sanctuary. So she was there when she heard my teaching on how to get your joy back, on how to live a life filled with joy and fulfillment. So this is a woman who's never been in church, and she's hearing a message on joy and fulfillment and overflow. Listen. And I believe Michelle, if you're still on Instagram, maybe on Instagram, maybe you can confirm me and make sure I have my facts straight, is that she was basically saying is that this gave her a desire to want to get back into the things of God. Woman never been in church 4 years. And see, if I was so built up on just doing something, I would have never done what I did in July. That was all of God. It was nothing but God. Who knows? Maybe I did that event just for that one girl. Maybe I did. There were women who were giving us testimonies of that event of breakthrough, of women who were crying out to God, who were leaders who needed to be refilled as women, refilled with his power and his overflow. There were women who had lost their joy. Do you know that my event in January had nothing to do with joy, nothing to do with fulfillment? It was called Dinner with Friends. It was gonna be nice. We're gonna have dinner. We're gonna, socialize. But then what God birthed me in July was, I don't want you just to have an event where you talk at a dinner table. I need you to do something where women will be transformed and fulfilled. And so that's what God birthed out of me when I allowed him to flow, when I allowed him to be the God that I knew him to be, and I allowed him to be my father and to show me what it was that he wanted to accomplish within me. And that's where we're going to end, because I can't keep y'all for too long, because I'm over here, I'm going to start crying. But I'm trying to tell y'all that this life is not our own. It's not. And so don't get frustrated. Things haven't worked out how they are, and you've wanted things to go a completely different way. Listen, don't get, the enemy comes after your frustration. Don't get frustrated. You got to realize that this life is bigger than you. When you face failures, when you face shut doors, when things don't go the way that you want them to go, there's nothing but the plan of the enemy to get you to become frustrated, to get you to quit, right? But listen, this is not about us. This is about God. And so I'm just encouraging you guys as we go into this week. I know it's a little bit over, but I believe it is something that someone needed to hear. As we go into this week, we're going to, number one, we're going to be convicted about our goals. Number two, we're going to analyze our paralysis. In other words, places that have kept us stuck. We're going to realize that number 3, we must walk around the wall. We're not going to have conversations with things, with our stumbling blocks. We're not going to have conversations with our walls. We're going to be like Jesus when he said, listen, speak to the mountain, cast into the sea. Okay, now before I go, I know it's Miss Fordham. She has posted this question 5 times. I've been teaching. I know she wanted me to answer. God has given me a vision for my own business as well as my music ministry, but I don't know where my priorities should be. That's prayer. If you want to find your priorities, you find your priorities through prayer. You ask God for confirmation. Some things only come through prayer and fasting. And especially when you're trying to establish something, when you're trying to build a foundation, you must fast. Great foundations come from great fasting. God will confirm where he wants you to go for your first steps. And really what's going to happen is that there's going to be an unction of the Holy Spirit that will lead you to confirm it. And he will literally confirm his word. He's going to confirm it. Okay. He's going to confirm his word with this. And it may be in prayer. You may be walking. You may be with I don't know if you have kids, maybe with kids. I mean, with husband, maybe just be at dinner. You're going to feel a prompt. But you must first do the work to fill the prompt, which means that you have to spend time specifically asking God about the priority and fast. And he will confirm, because especially if it's with which one should go first, he will confirm. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your night. I'm going to give you some rest. I'm going to sleep today, tonight, and tomorrow. And more than that. So I'll give a rest back. But guys, have a great rest of your night. Remember that tomorrow is Makeup Monday. I'm still doing that though. So tomorrow is Makeup Monday. And I may not really do any makeup. I think we may just talk. Because I'll be resting tomorrow. I'm not even going to want to wear makeup tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic I'm going to post tonight. If you're on Instagram, we do Makeup Money on my Facebook profile. So if you are not my friend, you can follow me. I think I'm capped at friends. So just follow me so you can join on. And again, just type in Genesis Dorsey. It's not my backup page. It's my main page. You'll know it because we'll have a whole bunch of people as friends. So yeah, tomorrow's Makeup Monday. Tomorrow, again, I'm going to post a topic tonight. So yeah, that's it. Good night, guys. Love you guys so much. Bye. See you guys later. Guys. Love you guys so much. Bye, YouTube.